So, alright, Mike is asking, please review the new limit order section. Yes, Mike, I will do that. I have been meaning to write up the documentation all this week, but it's been a busy week. Alright. So this you'll notice this getting started page, it's a part of the BloodHound documentation section, because you'll notice the menu on the right here is the same as also this installation page. The menu here is on the same is all documentation pages. So if I scroll down, excuse me, you'll see down here near the bottom there is a web page for Raven. And keep scrolling down. So here are the documentation on the parameters for the limit orders. Right, so this will explain what each of the parameters will do. And yeah, so each of the sections in Raven. So there's a trade management section. And so what I still am working on adding to this documentation page is the chart trader. So, but the majority of Raven's parameters are up in here, right here under the entry order options. Alright, oh, I need to start NinjaTrader first. So let's get Ninja started. And for anybody that's kind of new to NinjaTrader, you'll notice that my Raven is a strategy. So only strategies can actually execute trade orders, right? So what you're seeing on your charts, those are all indicators. So indicators essentially kind of perform basically mathematical or logic calculations. The strategy section is what actually manages, executes, and closes out your trade orders. So you'll notice that this is grayed out. Also, the $sign button up here is disabled as well. And what I need to do is you have to have some type of data connection. So you can use any of these data connections here, right? So you can use Market Replay or the simulated data feed. If you don't have a live data feed, anything will work. You can even connect to this end of day data feed. NinjaTrader doesn't care just as long as you're connected to something. But I will just connect up my live data feed. So, and to help eliminate confusion, I'm going to remove BloodHound off of this chart. Alright, because the reason why I removed BloodHound off the chart is because Raven will add its own BloodHound to the chart. So now you can see as I right click on the chart, I can go into strategies, and there's Raven. So I'm going to just double click on it, brings it down here to the bottom, and now I can essentially, I'm going to start from the top and just work my way down when I'm setting up strategy. And I'm just going to add in I'm going to load up a very simple strategy. This is just kind of a test strategy that has a bunch of simple stuff on it. And I'm just going to load up this one. Yeah, this one's looking for 2 bars in the same direction. I'm going to make a very simple one. So I'll just, I'm just going to use the bar direction solver. Connect that up. Alright. Click OK. And I'm going to leave my entry logic to none. I don't have any exit logic. I'll leave that to none. And so we can address Mike's question. I'm going to come down here to use limit orders and set this to true. Alright, so the cancel after X number of bars, what that essentially does is kind of what it says. So if you have a limit order out there and price doesn't come back to pick your limit order up, then you have to kind of make an arbitrary decision on, you know, how many bars do you want to let go, or how many bars do you want to go buy before you cancel that limit order. You know, you don't want to leave open orders out there forever. So this allows you to choose. If you do want to leave your limit order out there forever, you can use a -1. So -1 will not cancel your limit orders. The only thing that would cancel that limit order is if Raven reversed your order. So let's say, well, I can't draw on the chart, but you know, let's say like your system says to go long right in here. I hope you guys can see my mouse. You know, you have a long limit order sitting in here, but price doesn't come back and touch you. You know, price moves up, and then you get over here, and your system gives you a short order, and so Raven throws out a short limit order. Well, of course, that short limit order would cancel this long limit order. So if you use -1, the only way to cancel that limit order is if a reversing trade, reversing entry comes along. All right. So let's see. How if I set this to 2? The next step is to decide what your offset you want to use. So this offset value is based off of the previous bar's close. So like, let's look on the right edge of the chart here. Right, we have a bar that's being built right now. So if a limit order, say if a limit order long was being submitted here, this offset value would be based off of the bar that previously closed. So it looks like our limit order would be based off of 1.3789. So I'm thinking where this bar here closed. Yeah. So now as far as the values go in here, if you put in a positive value, that's going to submit a limit order. Let's see, it's going to submit a limit order past where the current market is. So so for a long order, or for a buy order, +3 would submit a limit order above the current market. So in other words, that would guarantee a instant fill at wherever the ask was. So if I was submitting a buy order, a +3 would probably submit a limit order above the current ask, so therefore it would be filled at the current ask. You know, if I was submitting a sell order, then the order would go in below the bid, and therefore should be filled instantaneously at the bid. So if you want to get a better fill, you want to use negative numbers. So if I put in -3, then yeah, if this was a buy order, -3 would be placed at, let's see, I believe the closing price of this up bar here was 1.3789. So the buy limit order would be placed at 37.86. In other words, 3 ticks below the closing price. So if you want a better entry with your limit orders, use a negative number. And of course, you can use our these common parameters that we have. You know, so if you are using something like a minute bar or a tick bar, you know, that has a varying range, you could use an ATR. So that way, your limit order offset, you know, is kind of based on some volatility. You know, volatility is measured by the ATR. You know, or you could submit your order based in points. You know, if you're trading the ES and you prefer to use points, you know, you could submit a order for, you know, negative half a point, which is 2 ticks on the ES. Alright, so we'll just leave it at ticks, that most common there. So how about if I specify -2? And keep in mind, if you're backtesting, remember to set this to true. But we'll submit this on a live, we'll forward test this. And I'm going to submit an ATM. Hopefully I remember the name of the ATM correctly. Alright, I think I have this one created, so just keep in mind you have to have this ATM name previously created. So that's next step is we'll you know, if you want, you can pick an account to test on, and then come down and enable it. And let's submit that. And let's see, you know, 6E seems to be pretty quiet. Let's switch over to oil. Hopefully there's more market movement on oil here. Alright, we need one more tick there, and oh, that's right. So what I forgot to do is, let me open up the strategy here. So remember, in the beginning I left my entry logic to none, and what happened is my entry logic over here, I didn't pick it. No, actually I did. I just didn't name it. Sorry. I just didn't name my entry logic here. Let me put a name in here. So this is actually just a 1 bar direction, simple order. And sometimes you have to refresh the chart in order for this label to update. So I think what's happening is I picked a ATM strategy that doesn't exist. So I'm going to take a look at my ATM strategies. Yes. So alright, so let me just create an ATM strategy here real quick. I have this ATM Strategy name, I think, in all of my other machines except this workspace. Oh. So let me just create a couple of quick ATM strategies here. All right. All right, there I've got a couple of ATMs created real quick there. Good, so now let me go in here. I'm going to edit Raven real quick. So for those of you who are kind of new to using a strategy, right, you'll notice that all these parameters are grayed out. So you know, you can't modify a strategy on the fly, at least not a NinjaTrader strategy. So if you want to modify anything, we just need to turn it off. I can just hit apply, and now you see everything comes back as black, and I can modify it now. And how about if I'll submit the order here that has multiple profit targets. Alright, now I just need to turn it back on. Alright, so now when this bar closes, it should submit that ATM strategy there. Alright, while we're waiting on that, I'm going to look through some questions here. There's a couple more questions. So give me a moment to look through these. Alright, let's see. Asif has a question here. So, Asif had asked me last week for the workshop template files. And when I email out the workshop template files, I send two of them out. One is the BloodHound template file. Right, so one is, is going to be this BloodHound template file here. And the other one, the other file I send out is NinjaTrader's chart template file, right? It's this chart template file here that gets loaded or saved. So as if probably what's happening is you are trying to load up the chart template inside of BloodHound, which of course they're not compatible. So let me And let me show you how you can get that straightened out. So this opens up my NinjaTrader 7 folder here, and you'll see inside there's this templates folder, and you'll see a BloodHound directory and a chart directory. So in the chart, or in the BloodHound folder, let me start with that one. One way now that you can tell if you have a BloodHound file is the extension. You see how the extension, the new extensions are BHT. The older extensions, like you see this one has an XML. So this XML extension type, that's the old extension that we used to use. So old BloodHound files will have this XML, but all the new ones will have BHT. So that's one way you can tell the difference. So if I back out and if I go into charts, here's kind of the big thing. When I name my template files, you'll notice, you see how all these have the word chart in them? So if the template file that I email out to you has the word chart in it, then it belongs in the templates chart folder. So once you check that and make sure that this file name with the word chart in it is not sitting in your BloodHound folder. So if you see, if one of these file names in the BloodHound folder has the word chart in it, you know, if there's word chart in any of these, just move it over into the chart folder. Alright, so we can see on the chart we have this order executed. So you'll notice that currently it's not auto-scaling, so we will be working on a way to figure out how to get NinjaTrader to auto-scale. I know all these to auto-scale the profit and stop flags on here. We're working on that, but for the meantime, you know, you can just shrink your chart up there. Let's see, hopefully it'd be nice if price keeps moving up and takes off this first profit target. Well, actually, let me take this off. I'll put this up here. So I want to show you a difference between the DOM and Raven. Just one thing to note. So I'm going to load up the DOM again. And let me put an instrument on here. Yeah, I need to go and add the current oil instrument. So let me add that here real quick. Yeah, so I believe oil is trading in May already. The May contract seems to have the most volume.
Target order pending. Order filled. Order pending.
Hopefully, let's move this down here and get picked up.
Order filled.
There we go. Okay, so what I was wanting to show you is that if you have an ATM, right, that shoots off multiple profit targets, if when the first profit target gets picked up, you know, it gets closed out, you'll notice that there will be a difference in your DOM profit and loss versus in Raven's profit and loss. So if I click on this black display area, you'll see that it changes the display. So right now it's in dollars. So the display is in dollars. Now the display is in percentage profit, and now the display is in ticks. You know, the number of ticks and profits. So if you like to watch this in dollars, you'll notice that there'll be a difference from Raven on the profit here in dollars. So the DOM is only showing you the profit for the open contracts, right? So if this profit target gets picked up, right, you'll only have 3 contracts left open, and the DOM is only going to show you the profit on the 3 contracts that are still left open, whereas Raven shows you the total profit and loss for the whole trade. So there will be a discrepancy between the profit and loss from the DOM to Raven when there's still open orders. All right, I hope that clears that up there for you, Mike. So here's something that can greatly affect NinjaTrader's performance. So if I open up, I'm just going to open up this stochastics indicator here, and so you'll notice right now, right, my stochastics indicator only shows to the bar that's closed. Right, it's only showing to the bar that's closed. So you'll notice that the bar that's still open here. All right, let me move my dots forward. Let's move these dots forward. All right, so this bar that's open right here, you'll notice my stochastics indicator doesn't go out to that bar that's open. And you know, a lot of people like to see their indicators working on the bar that's actually open, or the bar that's in progress. And you know, the way you do that is this calculate on bar close.
Order pending.
Right. So all indicators have this calculate on bar close. So this is a NinjaTrader setting, and if I set this to false, now you'll notice that, let me move all my dots forward. Alright, so the green dot is the bar that's closed. The diamond is the bar that's still in progress, still open. But now you'll notice, you see my stochastics indicator is now plotting on the bar that's actually open. And a lot of people like to do this. I mean, you know, why not? Because you want to see where your indicator's at on the current bar. But if you do that for all of your indicators, or the majority of your indicators across multiple charts, that right there requires a lot of processing time, because every time price ticks up or down, NinjaTrader has to calculate all of those indicators across all of your charts. So basically, NinjaTrader has to calculate all the indicators that has calculate on bar close set to false. You know, so that requires a lot of processing time. So that is one thing that can significantly help your computer and help NinjaTrader. You know, if you're doing that with all of your indicators, is essentially leaving them on true. Leaving this calculate on bar close to true drastically reduces the CPU processing time. And of course, if you have BloodHound, you can even take BloodHound and well, you'll notice this BloodHound, there's no parameters. That's because it's coming from the strategy. It's coming from Raven. So let me add a second BloodHound on here. Anyway, so if I add BloodHound to my indicator list, you know, I can even run BloodHound with this calculate on bar close set to false. And considering all the calculations that BloodHound does, which is far more than any of your indicators, that's really going to put a stress on your CPU. It can be done. You just got to make sure you have a very fast computer if you want to do that. Let's see. So Jim is asking another good question here. So he says, his equipment is pretty primitive compared to what you just described. Am I still going to be able to use BloodHound except for startup time? Well, Jim, once again, I don't know. There's too many variables in that question. I'd say for the average beginner, you ought to do just fine. You're as a beginner, the BloodHound systems that you're building are probably going to be pretty simple. So therefore, you really shouldn't have much of an issue. But as you learn more about BloodHound, and you start watching, as you learn BloodHound, you're probably going to come across some of the training videos that have some nice complex systems to them. So as you learn more about BloodHound, you're going to start building probably more and more complex systems. At which time you might start noticing,
Order cancel, order pending.
A slowdown in NinjaTrader. And so when that begins to happen, that's kind of your clue there that it's time to upgrade your computer. So, I guess the simple answer, Jim, is, just kind of keep an eye on how fast NinjaTrader is running. And if it seems to be running really slow in real time, then that's kind of giving you a clue that you probably need to upgrade your computer. Alright, so Jerry's asking, once you have a working system, what is the best way to get a warning, a bar ahead that it may fire? So, Jim, that's kind of like, to me, that kind of question is kind of, or Jerry, I'm sorry, is kind of like asking how can I predict the future. So Jerry, if you give me exact details on what your system is, maybe we can look at it from that standpoint, because in order trying to predict, ahead of time if your condition is going to be met, really depends on the individual conditions and logic that's a part of your system. There is no general answer, other than just to be clairvoyant so you can predict the future. So Jerry, you're welcome to kind of send your conditions in that you're wanting to look at. Send them in to the email, and I can help you out with that. Or you can book some one-on-one private time with me, and we can go over this together that way as well. If you kind of want to hurry things along. So let's see. All right. So yeah. So Jerry's saying, let's say a few of the conditions have been met. Possible then. Well, yeah, possibly. So Jerry, I guess here, let me try and point you in a direction here. See if this can help. All right, I have 3 indicators on my chart right now, and let me get
Target filled.
Let me get Raven out of the way there. All right. So let's say my 3 indicators on my chart here, right? My moving average, my stochastics, and my MACD. Say like these are 3 indicators, and so I'll pretend those are 3 different conditions, and I'll show you one way that you can kind of try and figure out what's coming up ahead, or well, not what's coming up ahead, but we can literally count how many conditions have been met. So let's say I need all 3 conditions to be met. I can have BloodHound show me when I have 1 out of 3 or 2 out of 3 before I get 3 out of 3. So let's actually, I'm going to remove Raven completely here just to help remove any kind of confusion. So I don't want two BloodHound displays on my chart. Okay, so I'm going to go back and add BloodHound to my chart. Click OK. All right. The next thing I'm going to do, so I'm going to open up BloodHound and I'm going to name my system here. So let me just change the date on this for today. All right. So I'm going to switch over to the Logic tab. Start working on the Logic tab. You know, notice that this name field is all grayed out, so I had to hit New to create a new one. So let's see. All right, so we're going to build a system that shows me the number of conditions met. And the key to getting all this working is the additive node, right? This additive kind of logic node here. This guy is going to be the key. So before I start using this, let's just let's put together the various solvers. So I'll look at the moving average, which is right the white line on the chart, and I will just something simple. I'll just use a slope solver here, and let's see, this is a 10 period SMA on the chart. So let me change my slope indicator. I'm going to give this slope indicator a name. So it's the SMA 10 period. And now I just need to go and change the this SMA to a 10 period. So SMA is already on here, so I just need to change the period up top. And there we go. All right. So now we can see on the chart, right, whenever the moving average is sloping down, right, we're getting a short output, and when it's sloping up, right, we're getting this long output, and then when the SMA is quite literally flat, then there's no output when it's flat. All right, so there's one condition. All right, the next one, how about just, let's see, just for the sake of showing some different solvers, I'll use the threshold solver on the Stochastic Indicator here. So I'll grab a threshold solver, and we'll look for the stochastics to be, let's see, what are my lines set to? 20 and, how about if we do this? I'm going to adjust my lines here to 25, 75. Alright, so we'll look for the stochastic to be below 25 or above 75. And you'll notice I like to work with, BloodHound on one side of my monitor and my chart on the other side. That way I can just flip back and forth, right? As I'm building my conditions, I can just kind of scroll through the chart, make sure that my solver's set up correctly. and then I can easily just jump back to BloodHound here. Alright, so let's set up this threshold solver. So this is going to be my stochastics. I'm just using this default periods of 7, 14, and 3. So I need to change my indicator over to the stochastics. There it is. I can double click on the indicator, or I can click the add button to bring it down. So my periods, I'm just using these default periods. That's all good. And I'm going to be using the Diffplot. So those are already selected for me. Alright, if I wanted to use the K-plot, I would have to select those instead. But alright, now the next step is put in my thresholds. So my highest threshold is 75, and my lowest threshold is 25. So I'm going to put 25 down here. Now here's kind of a requirement for the threshold solver. The numbers have to go in descending order. So I can't have zeros in here because zeros are less than 25. So I have to have some number in between 75 and 25. So I will put 50. How about if I just put 50 in these? And next, the threshold solver, you'll notice that all of the outputs here are set to 0. This is the one solver that doesn't have any outputs already predefined, and but all the other solvers have an output predefined. So in all of these other solvers, usually as soon as you put your indicator in, you instantly get an output. But the threshold solver, even though you have your indicator set and your threshold set, you'll notice there's still no output, and that's because none of these have been set yet. So let's see. So I'm going to say, just to make something up, I want a long output when I'm at 75 or greater, and I want a short output when I'm at 25 or less. All right. So now you can see we got an output, and of course you can see when stochastics is up above 75, I'm getting my long output, and when our stochastics is below 25, when it's below 25, we get our short output. Alright, so I've got one condition, two condition. Let's make a third condition. And how about I'll check to see when the my MACD, I'll check to see when my histogram is above or below the 0 line. So let me make the histogram, or the difference, just a little brighter. And I'll make it a little thicker. There. Alright, so I'm going to check when the histogram is above or below the 0 line. So, oops, sorry about that. So I'm going to drop in another threshold solver. Let's name the solver here. So it's the MACD Diffplot. Alright, change my indicator over to the MACD. And I'm just using the default settings here, I believe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm just using the default periods. And I'm going to be using the Diffplot. So let me select that. Let's see. Yep. So my MACD is 12, 26, and 9. So yeah. So the periods are set correct. Alright, so my threshold is the 0 line. I just want to know when I'm above or below the 0 line. So next I will put a 1 in there, and put a 1 in there, and now we can see, right, when the difference is below 0, short output, above 0, long output. Okay, so we have 3 conditions. Next step is to put them all in the additive node. Now, so now here's kind of the critical part to get this additive node to work. So quite literally, the additive node just adds up the values of these solvers coming out of here. Right? And so if I look at one of these solvers, I can see, if I look at the chart, I can see the output here is -1 and +1 from this solver. Now BloodHound only goes to +1 or -1. So when this additive node is adding all these solvers together, right, if I have a +1 for the longs and a +1 for the longs, +1 for the longs, you know, the additive node's not going to add up to 3. So to get the additive node to work correctly, what I do is I take the number of solvers plugged in to additive node, take 1 divided by the number of solvers here, and you'll notice these sliders. So if I select the additive node here, see all these sliders? So I can use these sliders to adjust the output of each of these solvers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the slider and slide it down to 0.33, which is 1/3. Right? So if you take 1, divide it by 3 solvers, that's 1/3. So I'm going to take all these sliders and adjust it down to 1/3. So now this additive node will be adding 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 to equal 1. And now, if we take a look at BloodHounds Output, so you notice how there's this varying scale now. So that's when the additive node is adding things together. So let's see, this was for Jerry, I believe. Yeah, this was for Jerry. So Jerry, you know, as we're kind of in this long condition, you know, as things move by, I can look, right, I can look at BloodHounds Output here, and I can see that, oh, look, I lost one of my conditions. Right, if I look at, see, if we look at BloodHounds Output right here, we can see on the long side it's 0.66. So that's telling me 2 out of my 3 conditions are in a long situation. But one of my solvers, or one of my conditions, switched to a short because I now have a -0.33. And of course, if I just look at my chart, I can see the moving average is now sloping down. So that's what's happening. If I keep going forward, same, and now I can see that, oh, I'm getting closer to switching over to a short situation because now I have 2 solvers that are entering into a short condition. And of course, if I look at my chart, I can see the MACD histogram is below the 0 line. My let's see, my moving average is sloping down, and let's see, and even the stochastics crossed below. So let's see what's going on here. So I can figure out which one of my conditions is still long. Okay, that one's short. let's see. Okay, so the stochastics threshold here is still slightly long. Yeah, that makes sense, right? So the reason, let me back up here. So when we look at the total output, right, we can see we're getting one of our solvers is still in a long situation. And that's our stochastics here. Because our stochastics just crossed down, is just below 75. So if I take this solver and I plug it in, right, I can look at the output of just that solver. So I can see that you know, the output of that solver is 0.22. Right, and it's 0.22 because the stochastics is below our 75 threshold. So it's not 100% met anymore. And as the stochastics comes down and approaches 50, right, so you can see on the way I had this threshold set up, as the stochastics begins to approach 50 here, the output of the solver is going to will begin to approach 0 for its output. So let's see what happens if we step forward one more. Yeah, so you see how the output of just this one solver, remember we're only looking at the stochastics output here. And if we look at the stochastic value, it's 53, or basically if you round it up it's 54, and so that's very close to 50, and so we're really approaching 0 here, and the output for that solver is almost at 0, right? It's 0.05. And so that is why the additive node is slowly trailing off here on the long side and slowly picking up on the short side. Now if I want to have a digital type of an output from when I'm looking at the stochastics here, what I can do is I can change these two threshold values. Alright, so I have a 75 and a 75, and then a 50, and then a 25 to 25. So now, if we look at the output of this threshold stochastics, you can see how it gives us a nice, clean, digital type output. Yeah. So this kind of got a little off track. So I'm just kind of showing you how the threshold solver works. So I got a little off track from Jerry's question here. And so if I put these all, if I put the middle ones back to 50, then you can see that the threshold solver gives me this kind of analog type output. So as we look at the total, as we look at the end result here from the additive, so if I keep stepping forward, pretty soon, we can see the stochastics is beginning to approach our 25 threshold, and bingo, and there's our signal to go short. And so you can see the additive node is kind of giving you that heads up there, Jerry. So, all right. All right, so it looks like that took care of Jerry's question. Good. And I'll just kind of throw this in here that you can also play around with the ratio node. It kind of has a similar effect. It's just using ratios versus just simple additive arithmetic. So two different nodes there that you can, the ratio node will give you a similar type of a output or a feedback from BloodHound. Also, there are videos on each of these logic nodes. I think it's like a short 12-minute video that you can watch. It is in the tips and tricks section. So let's see, I'm going to open up the video tutorials, and it's not actually in the video. Oh, I'm sorry, actually it is. If I scroll all the way down to the bottom, yeah, here we go. It's the one at the very bottom here. So it's the logic nodes in depth. So this video covers the 4 different logic nodes that are out there. All right, so the ratio, additive, and the OR. Let's see. It does not include the XOR. The XOR was added quite some time after that video was done, so I will have to eventually add the XOR to that video. So if you're interested in knowing what an XOR node is, if you're kind of interested in a lot of this stuff here, I have found Wikipedia has been a great source for explaining logic. So let's open this up, and so if I go to Wikipedia's website, you can also find the let's see, let me drop this on here. You can also find the XOR documentation on our website. But if we go to Wiki, and let's see, I type in XOR logic. And let's see, yeah, here's a nice simple table right here that kind of explains how the XOR works. So the XOR, essentially, your output works when your inputs are different. So you can see when your inputs are the same, 0 and 0, there's no output. Once again, when all your inputs are the same, 1 and 1, there's no output. So XOR basically looks for when you have differences in your inputs. But anyways, I guess my point was that Wikipedia is kind of a neat source for looking up looking up some of these logic nodes along with our website. Okay, let's move on to some other questions here. Let's see. All right, Robert's asking, what is the difference between your BloodHound bar system and the UniRenko? Robert, kind of as a general statement, I really can't compare against someone else's product because I didn't write that product. That's not my product. I can say, I have played with the UniRenko a little bit. So I guess generally the difference between the UniRenko and let me pull up some bar types here. And all right, I thought I had some charts loaded with the ProRenko on here. So let me I'll load up the ProRenko. Just put a day on there so it loads up pretty quick. Alright, just leave it like that. So there's not much, you know, I think the UniRenko the settings can be adjusted so that it operates the same as the ProRenko. I don't think there's much difference. There might be a slight calculation difference as to how the bar closes, but I don't know that for sure. But our other Renko, the BackTestRenko, there is a significant difference. So this BackTestRenko, let me see. I'm going to turn this wave mode on, and you'll see. Let me make these bars a little wider. So you see with wave mode on, it looks very similar to the UniRenko. There is a subtle difference in the calculation. The BackTestRenko does not. Let's see. Let me expand my chart out quite a bit. All right. So the ProRenko, the difference. There's a subtle difference in calculation from the ProRenko and this BackTestRenko that we're looking at. So the BackTestRenko, as soon as price touches, actually let me use something smaller here. As soon as price touches 99.9, as soon as price touches it, that will close the bar. Whereas the ProRenko and I think the UniRenko requires price to actually go one tick higher. Price has to go up one tick higher. Let me try and get these right. And let's see. Let's readjust all of this. Well, price keeps moving on me here. Let's see. Well, all right. Here, how about if I work on some static bars? So for the SI ProRenko, price has to touch one tick higher than the actual closing price of the bar for the bar to close. Whereas, and I think the same is true. I think the same is true for the UniRenko. Whereas the BackTestRenko, it's actually, I think technically, the logic is more correct, because for the BackTestRenko, price only has to touch the closing price of the bar. So when price touches where the bar will close at, then the next bar opens. Whereas with the ProRenko and the UniRenko, you know, these bar types that people love to use, price actually has to tick up one tick above the closing price of the bar before the bar closes. So in other words, price actually has to exceed the closing price of the bar before the bar actually closes. And I think the one reason why that logic became a little more popular is because you get less reversal bars, right? So price had to move a little bit more before it would trigger a reversal bar. And so, all right, so here's the major difference that the UniRenko does not do. If I turn this wave mode off, now it's in backtest mode. So look, you'll notice that the size of the bodies are all different right now. That's because the size of the body actually reflects the true opening price of the bar. So for example, you know, the price actually did not open down here like these for these bars. Right? In the ProRenko, the UniRenko, right, you notice that the bar lengths are all the same. That's because the opening price is modified. And you can see here that the BackTestRenko, when it's in backtest mode, it shows the true opening price. So that's the major difference between the UniRenko and our BackTestRenko. Let's see. Robert is asking, how do your bar system handle overnight sin? Robert, I'm not sure what you mean by sin. I've not heard that term before. To me, that kind of sounds like a slang term. That's a new one on me. Oh, synchronize. Okay. So, yeah, how does it handle overnight synchronize? Both of our bars, let's see, let me open up the backtest. Well, the BackTestRenko, because it's designed to be more accurate and backtestable and stuff, the it does synchronize at midnight. It always synchronizes at midnight. So let's go and find midnight on my chart. Right, so you can see here that this reversal bar is kind of a half-made reversal bar. Right, so that means it's synchronizing at midnight. So the dashed orange line is midnight Eastern time, reflected on my time zone. Now the backtest, so the backtest are always synchronizing. The ProRenko has this mode, so you can turn this on or off. Right? So we added this feature because some of the trading rooms don't like this sync mode. So most of the trading rooms like to leave this off, but for those who do like to see the synchronize turned on, you can just simply turn it on. And let's go find that point again. Oops. And there we go. So if I make these bars wider, so there. Now you can see the ProRenko here. We got this short little stubby guy as it's synchronized on midnight. All right. Another reminder, if you would like to see me build something in these workshops, you're always welcome to send me an email with the conditions, the trade conditions or the trade setups that you'd like to see me build. I just ask that you email those in by Thursday. Don't wait until Friday morning. That's typically, I don't have enough time to go through those. And you're welcome to email in something as complicated as you want. And that's why I kind of ask that you send them in by Thursday. So if they are kind of complex, I like to build it first on Thursday night and kind of get my head wrapped around it. That way I can present it in a clear and easy to understand session. All right, well, thanks again for joining me this Friday, and I'll see you next week.